everybody. Welcome to the Beefcast, and I'm here, Beef, and I got a very special guest with me tonight for our pilot episode, our first episode ever. So she works in the advertising firm. She is also doing lots of art stuff on the side, but I want to know more about you, Alex. What else do you do besides that? What are your other hobbies?
Apart from the art stuff, I do have a lot of hobbies going on. I do gardening in the morning, sometimes in the afternoons. I also dance. I
Nice.
used to do a lot of aerial stuff, pole dancing as well. Back when it was pre-COVID, but I can't train right now because I barely go to the studio.
Yeah.
And I also do yoga.
Ah,
Plus,
these are all group classes,
I
though.
yeah
Are these all group
yeah.
classes?
But also pre-COVID, I used to go to the gym and just do regular like PT training, which is not a group class. I think that's the only non-group thing that I do
Have
apart
you
from art.
have you ever competed like this aerial thing? Like, you ever competed like in a national level or like in the Philippines? Like, are there competitions and how does it go?
Yes, there are actually pole and aerial competitions. I joined one exactly 1 year ago. So today is November
Ooh.
16th. And exactly 1 year ago, I competed in Philippine Aerial Cup, which is a pole and aerial competition for the whole of. Actually, it's international. So it was held here in Manila in RCBC, but people from all over the world came in to compete as well. Mostly from China, Hong Kong. Actually, mostly from neighboring Asian countries, but we did get a couple of like Russians,
Wow,
stuff like that.
congratulations. I mean, like, that must be a big thing for you. I mean, like, for the aerial community, also, right?
Yeah, it's a very big deal. It's been going on for a couple of years, but for me personally, it was a really big deal because I had never competed before.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a performer, but competing is an entirely different challenge. There's like a different pressure to it, and the training is so much harder because obviously your coach wants you to win, so they'll
Definitely.
drive you a lot harder. There will be days when you're like they just need you to be great at
Mm-hmm.
every training session, and that's not something that's present when you're just rehearsing to perform. Like, you don't have to be on top of your game every day, but when you're training to compete, like, one bad day kind of hits you a lot harder, and it kind of makes you question if you're really meant to compete. But yeah, I think it happens to everyone, and it's normal if you're, especially if you're a competing athlete. It's very similar.
Definitely, I can relate with you in that. I mean, like, of course, you want to have the best record that you have during the situation, right? And I think this year has given a lot of impact for everyone and has affected everyone. So, have you thought of competing for this year, rather? Like, before the COVID happened, were you thinking of competing here?
Hell no, hell no. Yeah,
How
I
come?
don't wanna. Actually, I told myself
Hmm.
that my last competition, my first competition would be my last. Because I realized, although I did come out a much stronger aerialist and overall a better performer after competing, I kind of realized that maybe competing isn't for me.
Okay.
Um, I didn't like that I didn't like having constant pressure on me all the time.
Uh-huh.
And I actually struggled during my training period with whether or not I wanted to go through with it, because the pressure of competition started to take the fun out of hoop training. Like,
I get it.
aerial hoops was something I used to do still naman, like something I do for fun, something I do that makes me feel good about myself, makes me feel free. But when I started doing it for competition, it started to become something that stressed me out. It started to
Hmm.
stress me out more than it gave me freedom or release. And I didn't want to repeat that experience again and have it I didn't want to ruin it for
Hmm.
myself. I
That's
mean, there are a
yeah.
lot of people. There are a lot of people who are built for competitions. Like, they really enjoy they enjoy the discipline, they enjoy the adrenaline that it comes with. And that's great. Like that's really, I actually admire people who are like that because wow, more wins for you, right?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
for me kasi parang the joy is in the performing, the crafting, bringing a piece to life, exploring different characters. That's kind of where the fun and the joy is to me. Like, sure, winning is like a great feeling, which I thankfully got to experience. I won second place, and
Wow,
like,
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. You feel love everywhere when you win, but for me kasi there's more, parang it wasn't the end goal. For me, the end goal at that of joining the competition was just to grow
Hmm.
and see how far I could take it in terms of my aerial training,
But for sure,
which I
this
eventually learned.
but for sure this journey that you had, especially with the competition wise, that has given you a lot of growth since then, right? Like, do you think that it has changed you, or like has it given a lot of developments?
Yeah, so much. Like I definitely, before competing, I definitely viewed performance as, I don't know, it was kind of like a side gig, but
Hmm.
after experiencing competition, I think I gained confidence in myself and I realized how much of a, I don't want to say star. Whoa. I don't- no, but I realized how much the stage gives me life, how
Oh, for
comfortable
sure.
how
I,
comfortable I am performing even when I'm by myself. Like I really like the spotlight. I don't know if people know that about me, but like I really like the spotlight and being able to share a concept, share an art, perform for people. Performing is one of my favorite things to do, even in small ways when I'm presenting to clients or in big ways when I'm competing. It really gives me so much life to perform. And I wouldn't have realized that if I didn't compete. Because when you compete solo,
hmm.
like it's just you on the stage as compared to like what we always do, which is recital. When we
Yeah.
do recital, it's a group effort, so everybody's on stage and you're not the only one being looked at. So parang there's a comfort. Like you don't need to, like if you make a mistake you can console yourself and say, oh, maybe they were looking at somebody else, or
Yeah.
like you didn't ruin the whole thing. But like if you're by yourself, like
All eyes
there's
are on
only
you.
you
Yeah.
there's only you, and if you nail something, if you fuck something up, like everybody's just looking at you. And
That's
I realized that I'm really good at parang holding that accountability when I'm doing solo, because like I actually really like dancing solo. Like
mhm.
when at the studio, sometimes what we do is even not just pag aerial, when we do dance classes also, we do groups and then we do solos. And when we do solos, I'm so excited. I'm so parang pumped to like, yeah, I can do this really well. Let me show you. I love it. I love it so
Was
much.
this like
Yeah.
since before? Like you're very confident, and I like that the fact that you are very passionate of what you do. But has this been like since before, like when you were a kid, or was this like a few years before? Like when did this start?
Actually, I was a really shy kid. So
Okay.
we're gonna dive into my childhood. Hold
Yeah.
on. I need to move my fan because I'm getting really, all the performance talk is making me sweaty. So I was actually a really shy kid. Like
Hmm.
I didn't like to be looked at. I didn't like to be parang if adults, you know how when you're a kid and adults talk to you, sometimes you just
Yeah.
clam up and then you don't wanna like don't acknowledge that I'm here, sort of thing. So I was actually forced to I was actually forced into my first ballet class. I didn't want to do it. I didn't
Hmm.
want to take ballet because I didn't want people to watch me do stuff. I was a piano student, and whenever recital came around, I didn't join because I didn't want people nga to watch me on stage. But parang after a few years of doing ballet, like I realized that the kids or the classmates I had who performed, they grew faster than me. Like
Hmm.
they leveled up faster. They got better, faster at dancing. So eventually, I kind of like confronted that fear. I think so. Imagine I started dancing ballet at 7, and then it took me I think 3 years. So I think I
Damn.
was 11 when I first finally performed on stage. So
That
it took
was
me 3 years before I
that was
performed,
forced,
and
or was it
then
like a requirement for you?
it wasn't a I kind of pressured myself into it because I was starting to feel parang I was starting to feel left behind
Hmm.
by my classmates who were doing recital every summer because nga they were getting ahead and they were learning faster and learning more than I was, and I didn't want to feel like parang kulelat ako or like
Yeah,
loser ako kasi parang I was being held back in certain levels. So I kind of pressured myself into like, okay, you're gonna do recital because all your friends are gonna move on without you, so you have to do this. So I did it. And it all turned out for the better. Like after that first recital, I made lifelong friends. Like my friends from ballet, from when I was a child, they're still my friends until now. I see them every now and then. Like not through this pandemic, but like
okay.
they're one of my oldest friends. Um and yeah, so if there's anything I learned from that first performance experience is that you really create bonds with other people, which is the funnest part. And yeah, performing on stage, that's when it started getting parang fun for me. And that's when I started discovering the joy of performing. Like apart from like all the other fun stuff you get to do, like putting on makeup, trying costumes,
I can't relate.
I know you don't do that stuff. But yeah, I mean, and also when people cheer for you and when
Oh, that's a
people
good
like your
feeling. Yeah,
friends
definitely.
watch you, your family sees you and then they clap for you, and you can tell it you when you're dancing kasi when you're performing
Yeah,
some sort of dance or ballet, like you can tell if they're just like clapping for formality or for respect, as opposed to when they're clapping because like you really did something that wowed them,
great,
because
right?
they'll clap in
Definitely.
between the number, and it's like, oh, they weren't supposed to clap yet but they clap. So like you can tell, and it feels so good and it feels so gratifying that all that hard work that you were doing parang is seen by other people, and
Yes.
then they're able to appreciate it. I
That's
think that's why I like it so much.
that's good. And that's one of the reasons, that's one of my questions, like why did you want to, or like you didn't want to anymore compete? So you're more into the recital stuff right now, right? Like performance, right? I think that's
Yeah, performing is really what I want to do.
mhm.
Like I really really love being on a stage. And competing kasi adds another layer that I feel like I don't need.
Okay.
But I don't know, who knows? All my friends actually, when my friends ask me if I'm gonna compete again and I say no, they're all like, "You're so crazy. Like if I had your ability and your youth or
They would.
whatever, because like I'm younger than a lot of my aerial friends kasi. So
Okay.
they're like, "What? Are you crazy? Like if I were you, I'd compete for like 3 more years." But yeah, I don't know. We never know, but I don't feel like, especially in this pandemic, like when am I gonna do it? Although there
Ah,
are
that's true.
competitions that are happening right now for pole,
That
they're
I
all
don't
happening from
understand,
home.
because like it has to be virtual, right? And virtual competitions have never been really encouraged. I mean, like for us, since I am an athlete for Spartan race, we had to cancel races because virtual
Mm,
racing doesn't just really give everyone a fair judgment, I would say. Like, especially when racing, when the distance and time is more important. But for pole dancing, is it still like a judging? Is that what it's based? Because it's kind of sad also. No offense, but it's kind of sad also. Like when you're doing pole dancing and nobody's cheering, nobody's clapping. Like you're just just doing it on your own, right? And I think a big factor would be the support system that you bring to
mm,
the crowd, right?
yeah. So actually, yes, I think when it comes to sports, it's very difficult to rely on the honesty of people.
Hmm.
So I think that's where the difference comes in. When it comes to a pole competition, if even if it's virtual, it can still be a performance kasi because you're not measuring naman distance, you're not measuring
Yeah.
time. So technically, it can still be a performance with the way you engage with the camera, with the way you, the concept behind your piece. So I think that's the benefit of art, art forms like
Yeah.
dance, music, or even fine arts like drawing. They can cut across even beyond a live setting. We can cut across
Mm,
even through the camera or through digital. So I think that's something that at least that's a positive thing that we got to keep, even if we can't perform on stage anymore. So I think what they do in the pole competitions. They have a pole competition going on in the US that's international. And they do it monthly. They do it monthly via video submission.
uh-huh.
Although I didn't read the mechanics. I was being invited and asked if I wanted to join, and I didn't read the mechanics. Like I don't want to compete.
International
But
level.
yeah. Well, international level naman yung PAC, Philippine Aerial Cup that I joined.
Oh,
But
okay.
like,
So every time it's been an international thing. So like when you competed
yeah,
in Thailand, if I'm not mistaken, Thailand, like
I didn't compete in Thailand. I
oh,
just supported my friends who competed
oh, okay,
there.
okay. Sorry, apologies.
Yeah. But that was also international. That was ano naman, Air Stars. So that was big. Like there were a lot of white people. No, not a lot of white people. Maybe like one family of
Uh huh.
white people. Like there were like little Russian children, and then their parents competed also. But lots of Chinese people, lots of Singaporeans, lots
More on the
of
Asian
Thai
side, right?
people.
More in Asian.
Yeah, for some reason, it's a lot of Asian people. But there are also aerial competitions that you can join kasi like in Russia or even in the US.
Hmm.
Pero kasi I think it's just a lot easier to travel to neighboring Asian
That's true.
countries because visa isn't a problem. Or like it
Very
costs
true.
money to like get a visa. So parang and you could get denied pa. Like I have friends who were supposed to compete, let's say, in Australia, and then
Uh-huh.
hindi sila natutuloy because like
The
they get
visa.
denied visas.
Ah, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sucks. I mean, like, you spend money for it and you're qualified.
Mm.
But when you're qualified and you can't get into it, it's just crushes your dreams because like you worked hard for it, right?
Yeah. And it costs money, ha? It costs money to enter and audition. Like, in audition phase pa lang, like when you're gonna enter a video, it already costs, let's say, like 2,000 pesos.
Oh, that's crazy.
Tapos you have to, if you're not, parang if you were amateur level like me, tas wala ka pang previous audition video, you'll have to like put in the studio hours, pay for studio hours, make your video, pay for your trainer, your choreographer, your coach, whoever, to make your audition video pa lang. So parang audition video mo pa lang, hindi ka pa nakakapasok. You already parang shelled
Yeah, you
out a
already
lot of
spent
training and money.
spent money for
Yeah.
nothing. Like it's like a gamble. Like you're well based on your performance. That is right.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like this is all good. Like all the stuff. You're very passionate about your sport. I mean, would you consider this actually a sport or an art form? Like that's a really good question that maybe a lot of people want to know because aerial and pole dancing, like these are the stuff that normally it's overshadowed by basketball, soccer, right? Like all these kind of other sports. But then, what is this? Is it more like an art form or a sport?
Well, how do I describe this? Think of it like gymnastics.
Ah,
Gymnastics is a great example of a sport that is also based in artistry and concept. And like figure skating.
hmm,
Figure skating is also a sport. It has form, it has technical requirements, but it is also required of you to have a performance value and a concept. So I think you can call it a sport. A lot of people actually call it pole sport
hmm.
sometimes. But I don't like to, me kasi personally, I don't like to focus on the athleticism.
Hmm.
I know that's hard to believe for people who know me because I'm like super like handstands,
Yeah,
flips, like I'm that kind of person.
you're
But
very.
I find
How do you call yourself? A technical person when it comes to this? I think you're very
I'm just
technical.
very not technical. Oh my gosh, what's the word for it? I'm
Ah,
very dynamic.
there you go.
Dynamic when it comes to aerial tricks. Mostly because like my coach Hi, Papi, if you're listening to this in the future. Papi
Yeah,
Lance.
shout out to Pappy.
Yeah, due to my coach who is also highly dynamic and highly like a strength based coach. I do a lot of that stuff, but what I really find more value in is the artistry that you put into it. Kasi for me, parang balewala lang yung balewala yung flexibility, like how wide of a split you can do, and like balewala lang yung strength if you can do like single arm stuff
Hmm.
or whatever if there's no artistic intention behind it. Like, I mean, handstands and splits and flips are easy to learn over time. You can develop those. But what's harder to learn is performance value, having intention behind the way you move, having a clear concept of what you want to communicate through what you're performing. That for me is more impressive and more difficult.
Yeah, that's
Kasi,
why they prefer gracefulness, right? Like that's probably one of the terms that they use also for ballet and all that, right? Like it has to be
well,
with grace.
it depends on what you're performing. It can be grace. It can also be kasi like a fierceness or an
Mm,
intention.
that's true.
It can also be a looseness. It depends on what you're sorry,
Your
these are
sport.
like a lot of dance. These are a lot of dance terms, but like it depends kasi on what you dance in essence is like communicating a message through movement.
Hmm.
So if you want to communicate you're angry, that's definitely like a different sort of
You do like
there
robot dance, like.
it's heavier.
Uh-huh.
If you want to communicate like maybe like first love, like it's a lot lighter, it's a lot airier, it's flowy. So there are different ways to use movement to communicate how you want a piece to be received in essence.
Well, dialing back, like you are part of an advertising firm and you work there
Yes,
as a senior art director. So going
yes.
into the artistic value of from from the sports side, from that side, you also apply it to your daily employment. Is that correct? Or daily
Yeah.
work?
Yeah, of course, of course. I actually firmly believe that you should never give up your hobbies. You should never give up um like let's say if you're in a job that's very time consuming,
Hmm.
always parang fight for the time to do your hobbies because it makes your work more colorful. It feeds your work, especially in a field like advertising where we're like daily we're asked or demanded demanded to think of new and fresh ideas.
That's
It
tough.
contributes a lot to the richness of your work because the more things that you see, the more things that you experience, the more insights you can gain, the more insights you can take inspiration from. Like recently we just presented a concept to some new clients that I
Hmm.
highly based on my new interest in K-pop music.
Okay.
So like it was a very high pressure environment doing that work, but it was also fun for me doing it because I was enjoying looking at visuals of K-pop dancers, looking at the aesthetic that I really like. So yeah, even though like my hobbies are entirely separate from what I do at work, there's something like the parts of your life will always find ways to intersect. And the more that you experience, the more you can integrate those different like parts of your life, I
Uh,
think.
Well, that's very well said because I agree with you. But sometimes people say I think I heard this a lot of times, like when it comes to hobbies and what you do good. So example, like you're very good for sure with artistic drawing. I mean, you're an artist. You would consider yourself an artist. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
So
Of course I would.
that's basically your passion, and then you're turning it into business. And I think you've heard this a couple of times before. Like when you try to turn your passion into business, tends to slow you down, or it tends to, take out the passion that you have um from that art form. So like, how did you get to manage to balance that out, or at least example in your work setting right now, like how does it not burn you out, basically?
I think, well, actually, it's hard not to get burned out, especially since we're all working from home. Like, you're so
Hmm.
locked up, and especially with um like a constantly, I want to say churning. I don't know what the word is, but like my job constantly is talking to people and constantly
Uh-huh.
being like given new requirements. It's so hard to not be burnt out because you're just at home and it takes up like maybe 80% of your time. And because you can't see other people, it's also hard to find parang it's hard to, you know how misery quote unquote loves company, and we all have those days at work. We all have those days at work where we just need friends to like talk to take a
To
walk
lighten the
with,
mood, right? So it's
to
still
lighten the
important.
mood. So important, but we don't have that right now.
That's
So
true.
just to your point, like burnout is real. Burnout is something that happens to everyone. I don't think we should feel bad if we're burnt out. It's something that's bound to happen, especially if you're working really hard. um because it happens to other fields as well. Even if you're doing something really physical, like let's say you're an athlete, you can burn yourself out as an athlete
Hmm.
too, and it's highly due to working out
Too
too
much.
hard.
Yeah, too
But
much or too hard.
not because you're tired of what you do, but because you forgot to rest
Yeah,
or you
because
forgot to listen to yourself.
that's true.
So i think that's where I think that's where people kind of forget that it's important to have other things going on in your life apart from your job. That's definitely what gave me some sort of, that's what keeps me parang sane, or it keeps me excited for life. Not just for my job, because your job naman, I don't super believe in turning your passion into your job,
Hmm.
because not that doesn't apply to everyone. And if you parang treat your job like it's your passion all the time, it's really gonna break your heart. Like,
Definitely.
it's gonna get to a point, because a job is called a job for a reason.
Yeah, you
I
can
feel
separate
like,
that, right? You have to
yeah, and
separate it.
your job doesn't have to be something that takes up all your time. Also, like, you could be a receptionist, or for some people, kasi a job is something that feeds what makes you passionate. It doesn't
Hmm.
have to be the same thing. So when it comes to balance, I think for me, I didn't really turn my passion into a job. My job, I treat my job as a job.
Hmm.
There are enjoyable times in my job. There are days when I super duper like am really into what I'm making, but there are
Uh-huh.
also days when I just go through the motions, because that's what it is. It's a job, and I I kind of keep it separate from what brings me joy and what sets me into quote unquote flow, which is dancing or yoga, gardening, and my illustration work.
Yeah, it's
That's
still
what keeps
it's
me
still important
really
to
happy.
put yourself out there, like in a way that you're not just grounded and focused in one aspect. Because I mean, like, I think that's one of the biggest challenges that you mentioned a while ago, right? Now that it's COVID and like we're locked in
Mm,
our houses, I think most people get burnt out and they get to just focus really on working. I mean, like, I think some friends of mine mentioned this before, that working hours right now at home can be very, very toxic, and like it's been more and more, it's getting worse actually, because like before, I think regulation on working hours are okay, like once past 6 o'clock example, you're done. But then I think work gets too much, and to the sense that people are trying to convert their schedules, it tends to get loose. So yeah, like there's a
yeah.
lot of overtime, I would say. I would say overtime work that's not really counted, right?
I would say for some people there's a lot of overtime work, but
For sure.
also because we're at home and we're not with our coworkers,
Hmm.
there's less empathy rin kasi.
Yeah.
Like, because you're not staring at a human being and you're staring at a screen or like a Viber interface.
Yeah, like this. Like it's
We kind Yeah, exactly. So you kind of, especially when you have meetings, but like a lot of people don't like to do cam on kasi parang
oof.
hassle, and like they didn't shower for the day, so like they don't want to
Yeah,
cam on. So even when you're having meetings like this, it's hard to treat it's hard for you to feel human and to be treated as a human, since you other people aren't seeing humans.
hmm,
And also, just like looking at it plain and simple, when you're at the office, people can see if you're not there, people can see if you're eating, people can see if you're away at a meeting. But when you're working from home, people don't know if you're busy with a
you're
different
actually doing
requirement.
something.
People don't know if you're in a con call, people don't know if you're having lunch, having merienda. So there's more work that is packed into your normal 8-hour day. Because like before, we could just like leave the office and go for a walk and nobody can bother you. Nobody's gonna ask you for stuff because, oh, she's not at her desk.
Yeah,
So
because you're
parang
physically
nobody
not
can ask you
there.
for stuff. So there's less demand. Now kasi parang there's more demand because nobody can see what the other people are doing. So that's really a big contributor to the influx of work.
Yeah.
That's really hard on a lot of us. Yeah.
So given these challenges, I think I would say, because I was about to ask you, like, what's your biggest challenge so far during the COVID pandemic? What would you say it is, and how did you actually overcome it, or how are you overcoming it if it's still in effect right now?
Hmm. There's so many. There's so many.
Well, like,
Okay.
if you can pinpoint one, like, oh, what happened? Are you okay?
My nails. One of my nails
Well,
came off.
thank you for dressing up well for this for this
I wore
part.
nails and then anyway.
But yeah, like going back to it, like if you can pinpoint one that's really struck you the most during this whole situation, what was it, and how did you overcome it, or how are you overcoming it?
Well, there are a lot of challenges.
Hmm.
I don't know. I should pick one. I would not. I'm super tempted to talk about all of them, but I'll choose one.
Yeah, like the hardest one, or the one that gave you a little bit more of impact right after you overcame it.
I think the hardest for me is I'm super an extrovert. Like
Okay.
I'm a super extroverted person. Like I love being with people. I love sharing energy with other people. I like parang the excitement of going out and then
Mhm.
maybe meeting a new person today. Parang those were things that made me excited to get up in the morning or like having lunch with my friends at the office. Those were all things that I really looked forward to and kept me very much alive. And I think the hardest thing for me this COVID was not being able to be with other people. And I mean, it's not like I'm alone at home. Like I
Mhm.
have parents, and I have my sister and my brother-in-law who visit me every now and then. But it's very different because when you can constantly talk to people who are your age, when you can dance with other people, when you can sing with other people, laugh with other people. And for me pa naman, like, I love drinking. I love going. I mean, I
Yeah,
know
in a
it's a
moderate
vice, but
level. In a
like
moderate level, I
sometimes
understand.
not moderate.
Maybe not.
But like I love going to not naman late night partying because I have strict parents, but like I love going to bars and dancing with my friends. I love doing like late night karaoke with my coworkers at the office. And parang I just miss having super long
Yeah.
conversations with a big group of people and kind of just like sitting and being in a room of laughter, stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I know we have like versions of it now, like inuman
Yeah.
or whatever,
It's
but
still different.
you can't have you can't have your little cute like side conversations when you're
Yeah.
on Zoom with everybody. Like there's no, tsaka parang you can't parang hug people. You can't sit next to people and like share glances and exchanges. You know what I mean? Like those little nuances that you can do
Yeah,
when you're with a big group of people.
it's
I
still
think
very different.
that's the hardest thing for me. And also I like I still make friends now. So maybe I have overcome it a little. Like I've made a lot of new friends through the Fit Farm, which we do together. We have a
Yes.
workout group where I have met like all the people in the workout group I have never met in person except you. But I can say that I'm starting to be really good friends with them. I've also met a lot of new people through this donation drive that I started at the beginning of COVID, and now it's back again for Typhoon Ulysses. So those are also like an entire group of people that I've never seen in person, but we have a shared goal and we talk constantly. But yeah, I still, even despite all of those new friends and new connections that I'm still making, I still miss building a community in person. Like I also have like a regular yoga class that I join
Hmm.
where there are regular faces that I see, but I'm so tempted to like make friends, but it feels weird because we're not in person and I can't be like, hi. I kind of miss that like
Yeah, yeah.
human
Physical
interaction.
physical presence is still a little bit. It's a lot more different, like than actual like here and like online thing. Cause like what they say is that when you're in online, it's I don't know. For me, it's a little bit more awkward. Like when doing a one-on-one conversation. Like this is okay, but then like if you're just gonna meet someone new, you're gonna do that's actually something that's famous right now, especially for those out there who are into dating during COVID. Like of course you can't do
What is it?
like this thing. Like
A popular thing.
you do
This
literally
is a
one on
date?
one. No, there's like they do dating stuff like this, like one on one. Like that's kind of like awkward. Like how they get to figure it out. So basically, yeah, physical is still a bit more different. And if you were gonna pinpoint one way on how you got to overcome it, like this whole e I don't know, e universe or like this kind of like what
EU.
yeah, I'm just gonna make that e universe like an electronic universe. Like what did you do or like how did it came to be? Because for sure you had to have a process on this. Like there was a some sort of mindset that you had to
Mm,
keep on.
well, I don't think there's really, I think I'm still going through it because
Okay.
a lot of my issues still haven't been solved. But
Mhm.
since the ECQ, what are we now? ECQ. But yeah, since
We're
it's
in
gotten a
GCQ.
little,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah, we're in
since we're in
GCQ.
GCQ, since it's gotten a little looser,
Mm,
um, now I get to go to the studio once a week.
okay.
Um, I go to the studio Beast House every Saturday. So it helped me a lot. Like I get to see my friends. I go extra early so I have time to
Oh.
catch up with my friends, have coffee with them before class starts. Occasionally I also go to the office. Although
Uh-huh.
we've only done it like maybe 3 times during this whole lockdown. But it helps me so much when I go to the office and have friends there who go to like we plan an office day, like whoever like my close friends are at the office. We plan an office day and we spend the day together. We don't really go out, we just work, but it feels like a normal work day. And that really helps me regain some sense of humanity in myself, and I don't feel like a hermit
Yeah.
who's just like meditating and dancing by myself all the time. So yeah, those are small things that I've been doing to overcome it, but it still it still gets really hard on some days.
For sure. I mean, for sure. It's a little bit more different, right? But yeah, I mean, kudos to you. You've been doing something about it because I know a lot of people who are still stuck in the verge of like, not doing something about it. Just accepting the fact of what's happening. I mean, like, that's hard. I mean, that's really tough. Because what? How many months have we been in this kind of situation? What, 9? I'd say almost.
9 months.
Imagine 9 months of
Not
this.
normal.
It's
It's really
definitely
not
not. I mean,
normal.
that's why when people say it's a new normal, I beg to disagree. Like, I wouldn't consider this a new normal. Like, would you consider this as like something as your
This is
future?
not
Would
this
you
is
want
not
this?
normal. Like people are meant to be. with other people. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like
Yeah.
people are meant to hug, people are meant to high five, people are meant to fist bump. You
We're
know what I mean?
social.
Like
We're basically social beings. Like that's how we are, right?
even my introvert friends are having a hard time, even if they're
Ooh,
introverts. What
that's
more what more extroverts and like, you know, ambiverts, whatever you
so.
are.
So did you convert
Plants.
to an introvert lifestyle right now? So like, because you know you're kind of forced to like stay at home, do your own thing.
Well, I have been finding myself a little more parang when I encounter other people or when I spend time with other people, I find it really draining now because I'm not used to it.
Ooh.
Like when my sister first started visiting our house when the guidelines kind of loosened up, at the end of the day when they would leave our house, I would find myself really tired from talking to two people. Just two people. And then like at the end of the day, I'd be like, why am I so tired and so sleepy? And like I just wanna lie down. And I think it's because I spent the whole day talking to some other humans,
Social
which is something it's something I used to do like
in a
every
daily
day. And now
basis.
I'm not used to it. Like I'm just staring at my phone or watching stuff on my laptop. And I don't really do a lot of talking anymore. Even when I take classes, when I take yoga classes or dance
Hmm.
classes virtually, like even when they're live, I don't speak kasi, like I'm on mute. So parang I don't say words to the teacher.
Hmm.
And the first time I went back to a dance class, I parang I had a hard time speaking. Like my teacher would ask a question and I wouldn't speak. I would just be like, I'd like gesture because I'm so used to being on a Zoom screen and just like acknowledging that somebody's speaking but not saying anything. It was weird.
It's getting good. It's converting our lives into a more monochromatic type of situation. We're like androids. Like we're just
Yeah, we're turning into little robots. The fuck?
losing our feelings up. But I mean, that's good that you're aware of these. I mean, like some people they're not really aware. I mean, especially I would say you know my parents. I'm just saying that my parents are a little bit more of the type that they accepted the fact that this is the new normal, and they're a little bit more sensitive when it comes to these things. But yeah, so what about you? Like, what else did you what was the biggest surprise that you've had then? Like since then?
Surprise during this
Yeah,
lockdown.
yeah, like for sure.
I I think the thing that surprised me the most is all the things that I've been able to learn.
Hmm.
Like I have so many new skills and so many new passions. Not naman passions, like passions I've always had, but I didn't realize I could grow this much in in the confines of my home. Like like I've always been, for example, like a very concrete example, like I've always been doing yoga.
Uh-huh.
I stopped for a bit, but like it's something that's been like a constant hobby. But now that we've been in a lockdown, like I've been doing it sometimes every day for periods of time. And now I can do my forearm stands, my pincha, for those of you who know what that is. I'm almost at like my handstands, like I almost have it. And those are skills that I never thought I would ever have. Like it seemed near impossible for me
Hmm.
to do that. And also with regards to my dancing. So I've been dancing, like I said, since I was 7 in different versions. Like I used to do ballet, I touched on some jazz and some contemporary until I finally landed on pole and aerial. And I really thought that aerial was what I'm parang pinned down to do.
Like you're
But
limited
during
to
this
that.
lockdown, not even limited, but it felt like that was the exact parang it was the exact art form or the
Uh-huh.
exact dance form for me.
I see.
Because I was so parang I could latch on to the moves so well and I could pick up really quickly. But then during this lockdown I couldn't do aerial hoop training. I still haven't touched the hoop since oh no, I touched the hoop last Saturday, but like only because they left it at the studio and I was
Yeah,
like, oh my god, there's a hoop. Let me
oh,
get on it.
it's
But
basically
yeah,
safe.
I haven't done training since March. So I was forced. So I'll start with my first sports. I did bowls, which I never thought I would do.
Mm-hmm.
I did exotica for a good period during the lockdown, but I'm taking a break from it now, and I'm doing hip hop.
Wow. What are
Hip
you
hop
doing?
is something that I didn't think I would be good at, because I've dabbled in hip hop
Uh-huh.
a little ever since I was maybe in high school. Feels like it's a cool thing to do, but
Oh,
it never
it
sit with
is.
me well. It never settled in my body in a good way, and I was always like awkward in it. But I started doing it since maybe April, and now I'm doing a virtual show where I'm doing hip hop, and I actually feel
Wow.
confident. I feel good, and I actually feel like a hip hop dancer now. Not a very advanced one, but like a decent one. Like
But
shout out to my hip hop teacher Krista Roma, who is a miracle maker, and now she has like new hip hop dancers under her belt
she,
because she's
she
been teaching us for so long.
she turned you into a hip hop R&B dancer. Like you can do those,
Yeah.
and now you can do those break dance moves because you can do handstands and shit. Like
Well, breaking is an entirely different. It's an
yeah,
entirely
I know,
different genre.
but you can incorporate that, right? So, well,
I
you've
could, I
been doing a
could.
lot though. Like that's a lot, and you still have work. So I'm really impressed
Yes,
on how you got to balance both of those out because that's really difficult. I mean, like, some people already complain that they have work and then they just have what a workout they can't really fit it in. I believe, I don't know if you can agree with me, but if you really want something, you make time for it. And that myself, I think I can say that that goes out to all people out there. Like if you really want something, or if you want um, a goal, for sure, it's not gonna be easy. Like by just lying down or like by choosing the easy way out, right? So I'm, I mean, like you wake up what in the morning, and then you do your stuff, and then you work, or
I wake up at daily maybe 7:30. That's my
damn,
usual like wake up time. I cook breakfast. That's a new habit I started during this
cooking
quarantine, like
breakfast.
cooking my own breakfast. And then I do some gardening
Uh-huh.
for a few minutes. Sometimes it goes very long, depending on if I have plants to pot. Um, and then I do, depends on the day, but sometimes I do like a quick 30-minute workout or 30-minute yoga at around 9. And then I start prepping for work at 9:30. And then 10 o'clock, my workday starts. So I know that sounds like really routinary and like, wow, she's so disciplined. But it doesn't happen. It's a goal that
You
it's
try
like a
to,
mindset
but
that I
yeah.
have every day. But if I'm not able, I always have like a backup plan naman. Like
Hmm.
if I'm not able to say do my 30-minute workout in the morning, I leave some like an hour or half an hour at night to do it. And then I shower or whatever.
And you still join my
Like
workouts.
yes.
Like
You
come
know, I
on.
feel like kasi a lot of people get overwhelmed thinking about, oh my God, it's gonna take so much time from my day. When
Hmm.
in reality, like you'd be surprised. Like it only takes you 30 minutes to do
A
a
yoga
decent
session.
workout.
Yeah, or like yeah, decent.
You can do a 30-minute yoga session, a
Yeah,
30-minute workout. You can garden for 30 minutes. Like sometimes I'm surprised also. Like I'll pot plants, I'll like water stuff, and then I'll go out and I'll look at the clock and it's like, oh, it's not so late pala. I
it
have
just took
time.
like a few
And
minutes,
then
right?
yeah, I think people just get so overwhelmed because with like the thought of doing
Hmm.
something. Like making art also. Like it's something that used to overwhelm me. Na parang I don't have time to make art outside of
Yeah,
work. It takes too much time. But now that I'm actually constantly doing it, I realized it doesn't take me that long to make a piece. Like I just need like an hour, less than an hour, and then I'm done. Then I'll go to bed. Like I made something for the day. I think we just kind of get caught up because also in the rush. This is like something I learned also during the pandemic. Na I've learned to live slower and to
okay.
do stuff one at a time. It turns out that when you do stuff one at a time, you get stuff done faster as opposed to doing everything at the same time.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't know, when you focus on a task, like let's say cooking your breakfast or watering your plants,
Mm-hmm.
or working out, when you do it with your full attention, you finish it faster and then you can move on to whatever next thing you're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing with my job. Like my job requires a lot of time management, a lot of compartmentalizing your tasks to, like, are you gonna bundle your meetings together? Are you gonna execute for this hour? Like when you bundle your tasks and focus on doing that for a certain period of time, like everything gets done so much faster and you don't feel so overwhelmed because you're not trying to do several things at a time. I
Yeah,
know
you're
a
not
lot of
rushing.
people, like, yeah, I used to take pride in like being a multitasker. Like I was like, I can multitask. Like I can be in the car and I can do my work. Alam mo yun, parang there's so much pride kasi in being
Yeah,
able to do several things at a time.
at a
But it
time.
also makes you prone to mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes you more tired because your brain is trying to be in two places
Yeah,
at once.
I'd say also quality wise, it gets affected because you try to do something just because you want it to be good, not because you want it to be better or like the best, something like that. Like especially when you take things into a rush, you're just trying to reach your, how do I say this, like the enough, like good enough, but you're not doing it like way
Mm,
better enough, right?
yeah.
So I guess this
So all
COVID.
of you people out there, all of you people out there who want to work out and say that you don't have time or you want to try cooking but don't have time, like there is time. Just
There is
like,
time. You just gotta make use of it. If you want to make time, I think that's
and it
what
doesn't take a lot of time. I think that's the main point. I think
that's
people
true.
have to have that moment where they realize, oh, I'm done. Like I did
Yeah,
it and it didn't take up my whole day.
but then I think that's also where the support of the community also comes in play. That's one of the reasons
Yeah.
why when I lead workouts, I my workouts used to be freaking 1 hour and a half. I think you know that. Like you
Long
witnessed it,
ass
right? It used to be an hour
long
and a
ass
half. And
workouts.
people start to say like, "Man, damn, this is too long." And until now, like our workouts just last for 30 minutes, and that's good enough. Like you get a
That's
full
a
body.
lie.
It's not a
Our
lot.
workouts are not 30 minutes.
It is 30
They
minutes of my
last for
time.
like an hour.
No, 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 no. It lasts for an hour because there's a lot of stretching and shit. But then like beyond that, and there's a lot of talking in place, so it lasts an hour. But the workout itself is just 30 minutes. Every time I do a timer, it's just 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and that's like what? That's like an hour, almost just an hour of your day. How many hours do you work, or like how many hours do you not work? Right? For me, like it's not also like the fact that if you say you don't have a gym. I think that's one of the misconceptions that people also say, like, you got to work out in a gym. I think that kind of scenario, you got to accept the fact that gyms are not always going to be there. Don't be dependent on the gyms. I mean, like for you, when you were doing your dance classes, were you always like just motivated because you have a dance studio? Of course not, right? Like you had to convert
Yeah.
your own room into a dance class. Like look at that lighting behind you. You started to use that.
Yeah, I rearranged my
Your
room
room,
so that I could dance easier. Like my fan used to be over there. I used to have like this dresser mirror over here, but I kept moving it every time I had a
right?
dance class until I just like, okay, everything's gonna stay where it is because I'm like dancing all the time anyway. So I
Yes,
didn't move. And this chair that I sit on when I work, I move it to the bathroom, and like I just keep it there when I have to dance so that it doesn't take up so much space.
well, that's good. I mean,
Yeah.
like, see, like, you just gotta make something out of it. I mean, like, I think that's where people mostly fail at, where they think about the first thing. Example, where they fail at is when they think about how hard it is gonna be without even doing anything yet, right? You already fail at that. I mean, like, if you say like, oh, I can't dance because there's no dance studio, but come on, you can convert your room to a dance studio, right? Adjust to the situation that you're into, right?
Yeah, I think the takeaway should just be like, if there's something that you really want to do, whether it's physical
Hmm.
or something like reading a book or making art, I think the whole point is just to start. because like
Definitely. Very well
the
put.
adjustments, yeah, the adjustments will come after. Like my space didn't look like this when I started doing dance classes in my room. It was like it was an effect because little by little I started to learn what could help my environment be more conducive for
Hmm.
learning. So even when not just with my dance classes, even with my yoga classes, like I now know how to angle my mat properly and where to place my laptop so that my teacher can see me properly, because that's something super important to yoga as well, like
Yeah.
the fact that your teacher can see you and guide you. So like I really had to learn, like, okay, where do I place
The
all
mat
my
for the
stuff so that,
optimal
yeah,
angle, right? That optimal angle, so that
yes,
because form is very important, especially for yoga. I think
yeah.
form, when
So
done wrongly, right, screws up your body.
yeah, so whatever you want to do, like even with my art stuff, like I just started. I
Yeah, I think
mean, and then and there's no better place or better time to start than now, since I don't know, when you're at home, like who's gonna tell you you're doing stuff wrong? Like nobody's gonna see you fail when you're just at home. And nothing is really essentially a failure. Like even if you make I always think about this when I make art and it didn't come out the way I wanted it to be. Making something ugly is better than making nothing.
oh,
So
I love that. I love that. That's true. Because when I
and
draw,
work
it's
it's the
ugly.
same with working out. It's the same with working out. Like working out and like not being able to finish the reps is still better
Yeah,
than doing no
nothing at
reps at
all.
all.
Yeah, applies very much, and I like that. I like that. Well, thank you for that. And yeah, excuse me. For everyone watching, now you know that you know it's just all it takes. One step forward. That's all it takes. You want it?
Yeah, and
Come take it.
eventually like you start getting used to those tiny steps,
Hmm.
and then it's like I don't know how to it's so hard to explain this as a physical person who learns from the body, like because you get your body is really smart and it
Mhm.
adapts to the movements that you do. So let's say for example burpees, which I hate, which you love,
I love
which you make us do all the time. I used to find it super like laborious. Like I
it.
hated it. As in it I felt like it took up so much of my energy. But now I can do a full 30 seconds of doing burpees
Right.
without feeling like I'm dying.
Such
So
a pro.
your body gets used to whatever you keep practicing every day. In yoga, we like to say practice and all is coming,
Hmm.
which essentially just means like as long as you keep practicing, things will come to you. So whether that's dancing, making art, going into gardening, whatever hobbies are normal for people. I don't know. I feel like I'm an abnormal person, but whatever hobbies are normal for you, like the more you keep doing it, even if
Uh-huh.
it's like super duper tiny, the more you will be able to like you'll one day you'll just like wake up and realize, whoa, like I couldn't do this 2 months ago. It's like my seeds. it's, it's like
Gardening.
it's like yeah, it's like planting a seed, right? When sometimes because some seeds take a long time to sprout, and then but you can't like dig up the seed and be
Yeah.
like, is it growing? It's gonna ruin the growth.
Like
And then one day you're
where
just
the
gonna
fuck are
be
you, right? Like
one day you're just gonna be surprised like there's a leaf that comes out. So that's like your habits and your hobbies as well. Like keep watering it, keep putting it under the sun,
Mhm.
and one day something will sprout and you'll be like, whoa, it's been growing all this time, I didn't know. So
Uh,
yeah,
it's very very well put. I love the analogy. It's really good. Yeah.
I love plant metaphors, that's why I like gardening.
So how do you explain the metaphor for chlorophyll, or like how the plants eat?
For what? For chlorophyll?
Chlorophyll. That is the knowledge
Chlorophyll
that you
is
get.
like the green, like it's
Yeah,
just the
yeah,
green pigment, right?
yeah. I
And
think.
that's how it gets sunlight.
Yeah, exactly. So like sunlight is knowledge. Chlorophyll is your body. Boom. Give me, give me knowledge. Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, that was a really good. We got some good insights from you, and unfortunately, we gotta cut it off here. But it was really nice to talk to you about it. Like the experiences that you shared, those are priceless for me. Like this is coming from you, from somebody who's endured all of these situations, may it be art, may it be physical, or may it be that. I think that's what sets you apart from doing what other problems are out there. Is that your main goal is that you do what you want to do because you can do it, and that you all you got to do is to start with it. That's the main takeaway of it
Yeah.
for me, right? So yeah, really appreciate it that you got to share your insights um, your stories. I mean, like, I really appreciate stories. That's one of the reasons why I made this podcast, is because I want to know, or like I want to share the influences, like you, a really good influence in my life, and that you've made an impact in my life to other people. So this is one of the reasons, everybody. So she's been influencing me to do stuff that I've never done before. So uh, like
Yeah.
she said a while ago, doing something ugly is better than doing nothing. So I started drawing. It sucks, but
Mhm.
at least I drew something. So
Yes, your little otters and your little shark.
right. Well, yeah. Thank you again, Alex, for joining us
Yes.
today. And
I'm very honored to
if
be in
people
this podcast.
thank you, but like if people want to connect with you, or like if people want to see your artworks, where would they go? Like, go ahead.
Ooh, okay. My personal handle is at alex.gozum on Instagram. So
Hmm.
that's mostly like my personal life and a lot of dancing and yoga.
Uh-huh.
If you wanna see my art, it's on at Alexa Makes underscore. Oh my god, is that my handle? Yeah, it has an
Yeah.
underscore after. At Alexa Makes underscore. Yeah, so if you wanna see some yoga and some dancing on your in your feed, like hit me up. Or I'm very open to commission work, and I'm trying to get that off the ground, like artwork, selling art. Yeah, hit up Alexa Makes, and we're also doing. If I may plug our donation drive for
Hmm.
Typhoon Ulysses, check out Barya Para sa Bayan, both on Instagram and on Facebook, to see how you can donate and help us raise money for relief efforts, particularly in Cagayan. So we're currently organizing something with the SK in Cagayan. Yep. So
There you
we're
have
gonna
it.
send some love their way. Send us some money.
Well, thank you for that. And yeah, everyone else who's going to be watching this episode, like I hope you guys get to help out, especially during the relief efforts in the littlest way that you can. So it doesn't have to be a big amount or what, as long as you get to do something about it, right? So
Yeah.
thank you again, Alex. And yeah, good talk. You take care.
Good talk.
Awesome. All right.